Hi everyone, today we're going to be discussing the market trends in the Toronto real estate market and what is happening. Is the market shifting? Is the market crashing? Is it on the verge of collapse? What exactly is going on? So today we're going to be discussing the trends in the real estate market. But first, show reel, hit it. Hi everyone, welcome to Living in Toronto. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the shifting market and what we're seeing in the Toronto real estate market recently. I mean, you've probably seen the headlines about the market downturn from 2021 and what's going on. Maybe if you're thinking of getting into the real estate market, you're starting to panic. What I will tell you is the market is not going to collapse, and no, the bubble's not going to burst. Now, it is true that the recent sales activity has decreased by about 41% year over year from last year at the same time. We were talking about a super strong seller's market ever since we witnessed the uptick of the market very early in the pandemic. We haven't really catch our breath at all since the ultra fast-paced market in Toronto. What we are starting to see is a very slow market now. We have experienced a very strong history of double-digit growth in market prices in the past. So it's much quieter now. And as a Toronto-based agent, it's getting more and more difficult to find buyers' homes in Toronto. With a bit of luck and some ingenuity and creativity, that's how we're going to find you a home if you are a buyer. Now, we have witnessed Toronto properties have been selling above market value, and it is my goal as an agent to help you, if you are a buyer, to find a home that fits your budget. More recently, are starting to really witness a real shift in the market conditions. In many parts of Toronto, for instance, we're actually witnessing fewer buyers at the table. Okay, and what buyers are doing right now is they're sort of in a waiting pattern, or they're on the periphery of the real estate market, not really jumping in. We're really witnessing a lot of buyer fatigue out there. And it's not surprising because the pandemic really created a seller's market and a buying frenzy, where it wasn't uncommon to see 50 plus, or sometimes even 100 offers on one property at a time. So now, with the current market conditions, things are a little bit slower. We have a little bit more time to be reflective of the properties being sold. We have experienced an extremely early spring market. The spring market actually was pretty hot around the end of January and into early February, so it was super early this year. This is quite a shift since January and February tend to be quieter months and have fewer market sales, whereas this year at the same time, we saw much more sales and larger price increases. Historically, we see the spring market actually heat up around March and much more activity until at least, the beginning of summer around June. COVID has definitely influenced the market cycles. And interestingly, we had the same thing happen last year where we had a very early spring market in 2021. So buyers, if you are wanting to buy your first home or condo, you should actually really start to pay attention to the market. It's in a quiet lull type of pattern right now, and it's sort of post early spring. And this will be possibly your opportunity to jump on the buyer bandwagon right now as the early summer market lull has already started to begin. So what has this really shown us so far? What it is showing us is that sellers are starting to see fewer showings compared to the market conditions over the past 2 years. So less competition, it might be a little bit easier for you to find a house in your price range. The market is definitely cooling, and we're actually starting to see fewer and fewer showings, fewer offers, and so there's less offers on the table, then that could be beneficial for you. Now, one reason we think this shift could be happening is, as I mentioned, buyer fatigue. The fast pace of the market that never really seemed to slow down this past 2 years has really left buyers feeling exhausted. So inevitably, fewer are actually booking showings and presenting offers. So this market shift has actually had a ripple effect. In fact, it has resulted in some sellers actually responding by actually lowering their asking price. We haven't actually quite seen a market shift like this for a very, very long time. It's actually definitely more pronounced in certain market pockets within Toronto. This shift has actually other ripple effects. With fewer showings, there are fewer buyers at the table, and the prices will be much less inflated if that's the case, because the sellers will have to respond in kind. This type of market really creates an environment of uncertainty. And there's a lot of uncertainty for sellers, where sellers are reluctant to put their home on the market unless they absolutely have to. We're not seeing a lopsided market that's necessarily favoring the buyer, but what we are seeing are fewer showings, which equal fewer offers. And as I mentioned a couple times now, it's creating a more balanced market where both sides, both the buying side and the selling side, actually feel less pressure. So we are also starting to see sellers taking what is known as bully offers. Now, what's a bully offer? A bully offer is actually known as a preemptive offer. This is actually an offer where the buyer will actually present an offer before the date that has been set by the seller. These offers are usually well above the asking price, and they're very aggressive offers usually, and it gives the respective buyer the upper hand by avoiding any competition on offer day. Now, historically, there's been little incentives for most sellers to accept most bully offers when they've had so many offers on the table to consider and they don't want to miss any. So they've routinely held off on preemptive offers or bully offers in a multiple offer situation where it's sort of like a buying frenzy. And the reason for this is in the past, they've avoided these because the seller has actually had even more competitive offers than even the most aggressive bully offer. So they haven't had to really consider bully offers. But now, with less activity per property, sellers actually have been less willing to gamble and more willing to take good preemptive offers. And these sellers, especially if they're considering buying a new home, would rather bet on a sure thing rather than getting caught short on the purchase of their next home. So another sign of the changing times in this market is the fact that we're actually seeing a change in listing price strategies. And in some areas of Toronto, we actually saw a definite cooling of the market. In April, where some sales actually dropped by 40% year over year and more than 25% than the previous month. So the question is, are home prices trending downward? The current market seems to be indicative of this. In fact, recent freehold townhomes experienced the greatest market drop, with a decrease of over 20% to less than $1 million. And this was a trend year over year for this type of property. More recently, we're actually starting to experience better weather, of course. So that brings more people out. And with more buyers being brought out in the coming months, will this change the market even further? This remains to be seen. And we're actually happy to pass any small but positive economic changes to the market on to you. So keep tuning in to find out more about what's happening in the Toronto market. So if you're thinking of making a move to Toronto or within Toronto, don't hesitate to reach out to us on your favorite social media platform. We've always got your back and we've always got you covered. Until next time, this is Pamela Haines from Homes by Pam, helping you with your real estate matters.